can still view the program at a later time on our AARP YouTube channel. So please click Got It when it appears on your screen. And we will be sharing that link to the AARP YouTube channel a little bit later. Please note our disclaimer today. This session is intended to be informational and educational and does not constitute medical or legal advice. Consult your healthcare professional or legal advisor for advice regarding your personal situation. AARP is not responsible for the consequences of any decisions or actions taken in reliance upon or as a result of the information provided during this event. Great. Now, pickleball is undoubtedly the fastest growing sport in the US right now, especially with older adults. And my partner and I recently started playing pickleball last year, and we love the social aspects. And I've got my pickleball paddle, social aspects of the game, as well as the fact that almost anyone at any age can start playing. Plus, it's a great workout. Since 2023, AARP has been involved with pickleball on a national level with the Association of Pickleball Players. The APP hosts tournaments across the country, which include pickleball professional divisions like the AARP Champions, which are ages 50 and over, and AARP Masters, age 60 and over. So let's take a short survey of our audience today. Please answer quickly as they come up on the screen. Your answers are anonymous. So number one, how often do you play pickleball? Never, have tried a couple times. I play occasionally, I play regularly. Number two, what do you like about playing pickleball? This is multiple choice. The social aspects, exercise, getting outside, non-contact sport, competition, fun, other. And number three, have you been injured or felt pain playing pickleball? Yes, no, not sure. Okay, we'll just wait until we get a bunch of answers and great. So it sounds like a lot of people play regularly. There are a couple of people, a few people who have never played. Um, Exercise seems to be a very popular reason for playing pickleball as well as it's fun and the social aspects. That's what I love about it. And have you ever been injured? Oh, looks like 40% of people have been injured or felt pain playing pickleball. So this is a very good topic for us today to help prevent those injuries. All right. Well, thank you for participating in the polls. And now, along with pickleball's skyrocketing popularity, there have been increasing numbers of emergency room visits related to pickleball injuries. In a 2021 study, 86% of emergency department visits due to pickleball injuries occurred in people over 60 years old. Around 60% of reported pickleball injuries were sprains, strains, and fractures. 20% were contusions, abrasions, or internal injuries, and fewer than 10% were lacerations or dislocations. We've invited someone who knows a lot about movement and health to join us today, Professor Tamer Semerjan. Dr. Tamer Semerjan is the chair of the Department of this is a hard word. You can say
Kinesiology.
it. Kinesiology at San Jose State University. Usually I don't stumble over words. And a professor of sport and exercise psychology and the cultural studies of sport. Her research has included work with older adults and individuals with spinal cord injury. Her published work has appeared in Sociology of Sport Journal, Journal of Aging and Physical Activity, Women's Sport and Physical Activity Journal, The Cultural Turn in Sport Psychology, and Sex, Gender, and Sexuality in Sports. In the interest of time, we're going to have you type in your questions for Dr. Semerjan into the chat, and we'll address them at the end of the presentation. Welcome, Dr. Semerjan.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for being here. It's great to see people from across the country and all of you taking the time. I'm looking and many of you have more experience in pickleball than I do, but I'd like to think that I can speak to injuries, and my research, as Vince said, really is around exercise and exercise psychology and motivation. So hopefully we can have a good discussion. I'm going to share my presentation and get going. All right. And Lisa, I see your question and we'll come back to that later. All right, so everyone can see the screen. If I can get a few thumbs up, you can see my slides. We're doing good. All right, good. So wanted to talk about pickleball and really injuries and risk reduction. And Vince did a really good introduction around why pickleball is so popular. And one of the big things is the social benefits and the health benefits. So I wanted to dig down into that. If you think that this is good for you, you are right. There's a lot of great benefits associated with pickleball. I'm going to pull up my notes. There we are. So the rapid growth of pickleball is seen as a really positive things for those who are interested in maintaining our health as we age. And that's why many of you are here, is because you're interested in doing that. And like Vince said, it's fun. But we're also really interested in our health and exercise. And a lot of you on that poll said that you do this for exercise. This is your chosen form of exercise. And that makes a lot of sense. So what are the actual benefits? And this is all based on research that's been done. And there's been an amazing amount of research on pickleball in the last 5 or 10 years. And so tons of new studies in 24, in 25. And so people are really interested in this, not only playing, but also the research aspects of it. So what have we found? There are social and psychological benefits. Research has found a reduction in depression for those who play, as well as increased social connection. So sometimes, certainly not for all of us, but sometimes, and this isn't just as we get older. I think since COVID, I've talked to some of my younger colleagues, friends, and teammates, and they're saying, I go out just to talk to somebody. And so more people are working at home, more people are at home. So pickleball is a great way to increase social connections. You can't play by yourself. Most people play doubles. And so this is a place to create community. There's research that's finding enhanced happiness associated with pickleball, which is great. I think the other thing we don't talk about is opportunities for competition. Some of us are very competitive, some of us are not, but this is a space where we can engage in a competitive activity. And again, something that for younger folks maybe is more available, but pickleball is a space across the lifespan to engage in something competitive. And again, some of you are probably in very competitive leagues. People get really invested. Others are really out to have fun, to hit the ball around. And so there's a range for whatever you're interested in. In terms of health benefits, it's a lot of the same health benefits that we see with any kind of exercise. But there was a study that looked at people who play pickleball for an hour a day, 3 times a week for 6 weeks. And what they found was improved blood pressure, lowered cholesterol, and increased cardiorespiratory fitness. And this was better than walking. And a lot of times, when I talk to people, walking's great. If what you're doing is walking, that is great exercise. But pickleball had increased benefits above and beyond walking. And so that's also a great outcome for those of you who are interested in engaging in this activity. All right, before you do anything though, and we had that disclaimer at the beginning, as with any new physical activity program, it's really best to contact your doctor to ensure you don't have any pre-existing conditions that will lead to an increased risk injury when participating in pickleball. Joint weakness or injuries, high risk factors for falling, poor balance, poor cardiovascular fitness, those all may be reasons why pickleball is not the right activity for you and where walking, swimming, something else might be better. But we're here to talk about pickleball. But if you aren't already engaged in this, if you have concerns, always best to check with your doctor and make sure that you're ready to go. Injuries in pickleball, again, Vince talked about a lot of these at the beginning. As pickleball's popularity has increased, so have the injuries associated with pickleball. The majority of injuries are a result of slips, trips, falls, and dives. And I think sometimes we're like, oh, I'll just take it easy, but we get competitive. We're going to run for that ball. We're going to get our paddle there. And that's when we can run into a fence, run into a post, fall, trip. And that's part of the fun of it, but that's also part of the risk of it. As Vince said, the leading types of injuries are sprains, strains, fractures, and contusions. So contusions are those scrapes that we get and bruises, things like that. There's also some interesting data on different patterns of injury I don't know why these are the case. Is this about style of play between men and women? Is it um, some kind of a genetic factor? I don't know. But what we see is that for older men, they're 3.5 times more likely than women to suffer strains and sprains, while women are 3.5 times more likely to suffer a fracture and 9 times more likely to suffer a wrist fracture when compared to men. Could be related to bone density, osteoporosis, things like that. Again, could be about style of play. So we don't know why, but we do see some differential patterns of injuries. Um, we also see a higher incidence of injuries among 60 to 80-year-olds. And it might be that younger than that, maybe we don't have bone density issues for whatever reason. We're seeing less injuries in that space. Over 80, maybe we're playing a little bit different style. Maybe we're moderating how we're diving and doing those kinds of things. But and also 60 to 80 is a very high range of people participating. So, but we do see a higher rate of injury in that space. Studies have found that leading reasons for falling are lunging, but also moving backwards. But I also saw another study that said running forward was higher injury. So just, I think whenever you're engaging in a big change of direction, stopping suddenly, that's when we're going to have that risk of injury. Another thing, and we'll talk about this later, but this Myers and Hanks study, fairly recent, found that hip abduction strength was associated with fewer falls. So one of the big things we can do to reduce our risk of falling is strength. And because a lot of this is about strength training, anything that is lower body strength training and balance is going to reduce our risk of falling. If you're wondering what hip abduction is, if you think adduction, adding is bringing the hips together, so squeezing the knees together. Abduction is when we're coming apart. So side exercises with the hip where we're swinging the foot out to the side and back, those would be the kinds of examples. If you go to the gym, there's that funky contraption where you sit down and you squeeze your knees together, and then you can change the configuration and squeeze your legs apart. Those are going to be hip abduction and adduction. That is a great exercise. So if we're thinking about how to reduce our risk, those are some great exercises to do. Another study found that actually the same study, found that pickleball T-test performance can also be related to falls. So this I hadn't seen before, and I'm not saying you should go try this, but you could. So I'm going to click. This is the pickleball T-test. So for those of you who are familiar with the pickleball court, what you're doing to test in the pickleball T-test is you start here on the, I think this is the baseline still. Yes, all right. So start on this baseline, run forward to the non-volley line. So we run forward, shuffle to the side, and then shuffle back to the other side, shuffle back to the middle, and then running backwards. And so to do the pickleball T-test, you're timing that. And this study found that people who were faster on this T-test, which means you're a little bit more confident, but also moving a little faster, had a lower risk of falling. So this is an interesting thing if you're feeling agile, you might want to check with your doctor before you do this test. I wouldn't want to tell you to run out and do this, but this is kind of an interesting thing to look at and assess. How comfortable are you running towards the kitchen, going to the sideline, coming back to the middle, and running backwards? Because those are the kinds of movements and the kinds of changing of direction that are going to be really common. All right, so what are the common injuries? Again, Vince talked about a number of these. Falls related to sudden turning and pivoting movements. Again, almost half of you, 40% of you, have had some kind of injury. So I look forward to looking at the chat and having some discussion. And I prefer to have discussion. So I'll probably end a little early so that we can talk and answer a lot of your questions. But falls relating from sudden turning and pivoting movements. That's always when we're at risk in any kind of, I did a lot of falls prevention work as well. And that's always when we're at risk of falling, as we're changing direction. And especially in pickleball where you're diving, where you're trying to make that shot, you want to get that shot, you want to beat your team, the person you're playing against. That's when we're most likely to have that fall. Wrist injuries are very common. Typically when we fall, we put our hands out. This is what we often do. And it makes sense. We're trying to protect our face. There are falls prevention programs, and ideally the way that you fall is to kind of roll. That's difficult to do in pickleball. That's difficult to do when you're in that motion. But when you fall on, now you don't want to fall on your face. So it makes sense that we catch ourselves this way. But if we can fall and get sort of, and again, hip is tough too. We don't always want to fall on our hips, but if we can fall on our thigh, our shoulders, usually that can be a protective factor. Our wrists are a spot where we can often get injured. Ankle sprains are also very common. And again, this is that twisting motion and the sudden change of direction. Achilles tendon sprains or ruptures these are very awful to recover from, but also very common. We're seeing a lot of Achilles tendon sprains. And then knee injuries, sprains, meniscus tears, ligament injuries are all fairly common and associated with pickleball. So those are acute. Those are things in the moment that happen. The other thing that we see in pickleball are chronic injuries that are a result of overuse or repetitive pounding on that hard playing surface. So foot injuries, especially plantar fasciitis. People have plantar fasciitis for all kinds of reasons, but especially that starting stopping motion over time can flare up plantar fasciitis. Knee injuries, same idea, that starting and stopping, but also that pounding. So chronic, long-term playing of pickleball can relate to knee injuries. Shoulder pain, and this is like, we talk about tennis elbow, but there's also pickleball elbow, but also shoulder pain. Rotator cuff tendinopathy, so that's a tendonitis and a swelling in the shoulder from using that shoulder over and over again. Achilles tendonitis is that inflammation of the Achilles tendon at the back of the heel. Low back pain, a lot of times this is a result of people already have maybe low back pain. One of the best things you can do to reduce low back pain is to increase the strength of your core and work on abdominal strength. Hamstring strain is another one. And again, this is that sudden stopping or running very quickly can lead to hamstring strain and elbow injuries. As I said, pickleball elbow is another common chronic injury that happens from overuse. So how do we reduce the likelihood of injury? One is proper footwear. And so having court shoes are different than running shoes, than walking shoes, than other kinds of shoes. These are going to give you lateral stability. They're going to help you with that stopping and starting motion and giving you support where you need. So again, many of you are already playing, you're familiar with court shoes, but if you go to your local sports store, they can help you identify appropriate footwear for pickleball. Appropriate paddle, and this is again not my area of expertise. I've got a couple links at the end that talk about how you can think about paddles, but the weight of the paddle, the grip, and the shape are going to be dependent on your style of play, your level of play, your strength, and things like that. And so having somebody who can help you, and there's lots of professionals very happy to help in this process, but I found a couple articles that talk people through identifying what might be the right kind of paddle. That can also reduce strain on the shoulder and on the elbow. And so getting the appropriate paddle can be very helpful. Ensuring cardiovascular fitness and strength before starting pickleball. So as I said earlier, it is really important that you have some baseline strength and fitness before getting into pickleball. So if you have outstanding health issues, this may not be the first thing you run into. This might be something that you build up to. And again, if you have concerns about that, it is best to consult with your general practitioner, with your doctor before. But any, like I said, lower body strength, so calf, working on the ankle, working on leg strength, sit to stand exercises, if you've done those, just getting up out of a chair works on your quads and your hamstrings. Lower body exercises are going to be really helpful before starting, and getting some baseline cardiovascular fitness, whether that's through walking, fast walking. That is a good way to build your cardiovascular fitness. And then stretching. So I'm going to talk about a stretching routine, give some resources, and then we'll open up for questions. So this is a basic stretch routine. It actually follows the first video that we're going to share with you all that basically walks through this. But I wanted to talk through this because I think it's a really good comprehensive baseline how to get ready to play pickleball. The first thing is to elevate your heart rate. You're going to be elevating your heart rate when you're playing pickleball. And so a brisk walk. So if you're walking to the court, a brisk walk, sort of as fast as you can, getting that heart rate up there. I'm so used to asking students things. Some of you may have heart rate monitors, whether you have an Apple Watch or some other kind of thing. You can take a look at that, but you can also just check your heart rate. If you count for 10 seconds, look at what your resting heart rate is, count for 10 seconds after you've been moving. If you do it for 10 seconds, you multiply by 6, that's your beats per minute. But really, you want to look, are you elevating your heart rate? So a brisk walk, if you're able to jog, great. And then side shuffles where you're stepping side to side is also a good warm up because that's an activity you're going to be doing on the court. You're going to be moving side to side. So those side shuffles are a very good way to start warming up. Forearm stretch. So this one I can show you a little bit easier. A forearm stretch, you put your arm out in front. You can do this if you want. It feels good all the time. You put your arms up and then gently pull the fingers back. I just think this feels good. And you want to hold that for like 10 or 15 seconds, even 20 seconds is okay. And you're going to feel that here. Now for pickleball, that's really, really important, right? Because especially in your paddle arm, you're going to be really using that forearm a lot. Okay, so we do that for 10 or 15 seconds and then make a light fist and then pull that back. And so now you should feel that stretch on the top. This is just a nice thing to do in the morning. So again, that stretch here and then back down. All right, core strength. You're going to be doing a lot of turning in and twisting. And so core strength, the recommendation here is to stand shoulder width apart, feet shoulder width apart. I'm obviously not standing, but then to just start kind of rotating the body right to left. And you want to keep, I'm looking at the screen, but you want to keep your head aligned with your spine. And so just turning side to side. And then as you get that mobility, you can start lifting your arms a little bit. So as you move a little bit faster, right, we can swing. I love it, Gary. Perfect. And if you've got good balance, you can come up, lift the heels a little bit so you're on your toes and looking at our balance and really getting things moving. That's going to get the core, but it's also stretching our back. And as you start moving the arms higher and higher, you'll get some shoulder. And again, there's a video that I'll show you that goes through all of this. Hamstring stretch. So with a hamstring stretch, you're standing up. You're putting one foot forward and bringing the toes back towards you. You're reaching up and then reaching down towards the toe. If you have balance issues, if you get dizzy, do not do this, right? So if you have dizzy issues, you don't want to drop your head below your waist. But if you're feeling, so you can start this in a chair, but if you're feeling confident, you would reach down towards that foot that's in front and then lift straight up with the arms up again. And then you would switch legs. All right. And then calf stretch is really important. A calf stretch is you're standing. You've got one leg forward, one leg behind, and that leg behind, you're really driving your heel and your ankle into the ground. You shift your weight forward. Again, this is, if you want to get up and do this, I'm in an awkward situation. Not awkward, but it's a little weird for me to do this on camera. But if you put that weight forward, you can also do this behind a chair, where you've got one leg forward, one leg back, your weight's on your front leg, you're shifting that weight, but then you also can shift your weight back onto your heel. So you're pushing back onto your heel. And again, the video does a good job describing this. You would do that. Most stretches, you want to hold, a lot of times we don't hold stretches enough. Stretches ideally are hold for 20 to 30 seconds. So take your time with these. This routine takes about 3 minutes. It's worth it to do it. All right. So the first link here takes you through what I showed you. The second link is a much more dynamic stretching. And so she's doing leg swings and more shuffling. Again, oh, I just messed up. There. Are we back on screen again?
Yes,
Do
and we're
moments.
putting those links in the chat so people
Perfect.
click on the links in the chat.
Great. And so you can click on those links. That second one is much more dynamic. She's swinging, she's shuffling. You can see that she's a very fit person, but that is a more advanced stretching and warm up technique. And then how to pick a paddle. I'm not going to go through this. It's not my area of expertise, but these are two links that I thought were fairly well balanced and talk about the different elements of how to pick a paddle. And again, this is to help mitigate risk from shoulder and elbow injuries from having an incorrect paddle, one that's too heavy or too light. All right. So in conclusion, pickleball is a fast growing sport, one of the fastest growing sports in the US. Lots of social, psychological, and health benefits. It's a great sport to play if you, I think also it's a great thing if you're coming from tennis and maybe you're having some pain playing tennis. A lot of people are transitioning into pickleball. As with any activity, there are risks of injury. And so we want to be aware of that and mitigate that as much as possible. Prepare before you play. Make sure you have the right equipment. Make sure you're physically prepared before you get on the court. And the biggest thing is to have fun. And with that, we'll go to questions.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Semergen. So let's go over to the chat and see if we have any questions. Joyce?
Well, thank you so very much. This was absolutely wonderful. So thank you again for this presentation. Learned so much about it. Now I'm excited. Now I want to go play some pickleball. So we have our first question, and it says, what's a good exercise to do at home or the gym to prepare yourself for pickleball?
That's a great question. I would start with some, again, it depends on your level of strength. But I would suggest for almost anyone, the sit and stand test. I'm in a rolling chair, so this is not good. But a sit and stand test is you are seating and you stand up and you sit down again, not on a rolling chair. And that is a great way to kind of assess your leg strength. And you can actually time yourself, do that fairly quickly. So how many of those can you do in 30 seconds? But that kind of, that up and down is a good start. Calf raises are another one where if you're standing, and if you have some balance concerns, and even if you don't, we all have our moments, standing behind a chair if you need to, so you can grab the chair, standing up, raising those heels, putting our weight on our toes, and then coming back down. That is a great calf strength exercise. I would do 10 of those, take a break, do 10 more, 3 sets of 10. If you can do 15, great. As you get good at those, you don't need your hands, you're getting better. Try doing it with one foot and try doing it again. Not everyone could do this, that's all right. But if you're a little bit more advanced, you can do it on one foot. It also lets you see if you're a little imbalanced, which a lot of us are, so you may be stronger on one foot than the other. So those calf raises, sit to stand, another one standing behind a chair, swinging the leg out in a really controlled fashion. So that's a hip swing, and you can take the leg out to the side, out to the back as well. That'll get your glutes as well. Actually, AARP has some great resources for exercises. So any lower body exercises are going to be great, and all of those can be done at home. So calf raises, sit to stand, hip to the side, hip swings to the back. And when I say swing, I actually want a very controlled, slow motion. So we're here and we're coming to the side and then down and then up and then down. So it's not a speed game. That is really what's going to control strength. And when you feel it, if you do with those hip things, you can do 15 or 20. If you can build up to 10 and then 15 and 20. If you don't have weights, you're really trying to go for that repetition. If you have bands, anybody have bands?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know
You
about the
can
bands.
tie those bands around your ankle. and do those hips to the side and to the back with a band. If you have a physical therapist or a doctor, they can help you. I love the squats while drying my hair. That's perfect. So yes, squats are basically the sit to stand. If you could do squats at home, that's great. All of those, you don't need equipment, but if you have the bands, you can also do the side shuffle, sometimes the crab walk, where you walk to one side and then come back. All of that will work on hip, but also some medial glute in our backside, which
Wow,
also
you're
helps.
good. This is perfect. Thank you. Wow, thank you. Those are some great, simple exercises that are not strenuous. I just love it. Thank
One
you.
more, Joyce, actually,
Another
is
person.
ankle circles is
Okay.
another really good
Oh,
one to get the rotation. It helps with ankle strength, but also, and I don't
mm.
know about you all, mine crack when I do that. And, but getting those cracks out and doing ankle rotations both sides in both directions.
No, those ankle rotations definitely is definitely a plus because you can't go from side to side if you don't rotate those ankles. So yeah, absolutely right. Great. Wow. Thank you so much. Another person had mentioned about her thumb. She says, always protect your thumb because when you're hitting that paddle ball and that racket, that's the very first thing that usually gets hurt is your thumb trying to protect it, running into things. So yeah, is that a true statement pretty much? Your thumbs get hurt when
Right,
you
Vince,
playing the
I'm gonna
pickleball?
defer to you on that one. That I haven't. I will say the thenar muscle is the thumb muscle, and so we do have a lot of overuse. That's the biggest muscle in your hand, and so if you're gripping that racket really hard, I can imagine having some overuse injuries there.
Mhm.
I think her question was maybe related, maybe a little more to getting hit by hit in the thumb. Well, you can't see this. Hit
Yeah,
the thumb
when you're
by
hitting on the side.
ball. And I think that is basically you're missing the sweet spot. So you're getting hit in the hand by the ball instead of, well, you can't see this. You're getting hit in the hand by the ball instead of hitting the paddle. So that's a matter of more hand-eye coordination than but I guess to protect it, you could maybe wear a glove, but gloves aren't great for grip. So don't really have any suggestions for protecting your thumb. If anybody in the audience has any suggestions, so the question I think was related to getting hit in the thumb by the ball
When you're with
and
the
how to
ball,
protect
huh?
your thumb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if
So if
anybody else
anybody has
has
that,
suggestions,
have an answer to that one, put it in the chat so we can share that. That would be great. So also, is it true that it's better for joints to play indoors wood surface than outdoor court surface
Mm.
for your joints?
Haven't seen research on this. It would make sense that I think it depends on the court, right? If it's a very hard and a lot of the pickleball outdoor, and again, I'll look at Vince in a minute for this, but I think those outdoor courts are going to be harder and more impact. The wood courts indoor, you're going to have a little bit more give. And so, yes, that would be more gentle on your joints. The harder that court, the more impact. So, yes, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Wood because it kind of gives a little bit versus, where there's no give at all. Okay.
And there's a lot of different court surfaces now. Some wood courts, like basketball courts, have a lot of give and there's a lot of space. There's new volleyball courts that are a little bouncier. I imagine, and sometimes those are on basketball courts. So the softer the surface, the softer it's going to be on your joints and the more give.
Yeah.
and we did get
This is,
a few answers from the audience on that. Protecting your thumb is holding the paddle a little bit lower,
oh, good.
or getting a longer handle can help.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Vince. I was getting ready to say, let's find out what that answer is, but those are good. Those are good. Those are good answers. A couple of more. Now, these tend to be a little bit more medical. It says, are knee compression braces useful as a prevention? I don't know. That's a medical kind of question.
It really depends on the injury, and I would talk to a doctor and a physical therapist. It depends on what your knee injury is. Like I have a patella issue, So I support my knee, but it's so that my knee tracks, right? Like that's very specific to the kind of injury that I have. If the brace feels good and it's not causing injury, it's probably okay, but I would talk to your doctor. Especially if you have a congenital issue. A lot of folks are using compression sleeves that can provide support and venous return, so blood flow, blood return. A lot of those braces work. Sometimes we've had those braces for 15 years. I'm guilty of this. So I'm not saying you all do this. I've had that brace for like 15 years. There's no elasticity left to it. I'm not really sure what it's doing anymore. So I would check with a doctor or a physical therapist. But they can be
Yeah.
helpful. It really just depends on what the issue is.
Yeah, it was just more of a medical issue because I know people were talking about that, and then talking about is ice or heat better for play. So again, those are pretty much some more medical issues, like you said. Maybe we need to, consult your physician on those.
Yeah. And there's actually, because people are getting into the cold plunge thing, and there's a new study, if any of you are doing cold plunge, if you have a heart condition, don't do a cold plunge. I know y'all can bring me back in. But the cold plunge is getting really popular. I see it at my gym. For strength training, we're finding it's not a good thing to do after strength training. A new study just came out. It's a small study, but ice and heat, we've kind of changed our thinking on that. Heat can be good for bringing blood flow in, but if you have inflammation, then ice can be good. So again, always check with your doctor. Really depends on the kind of injury and what you're using it for.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to kind of filter some of those questions so people will know, when it comes to your physical body, it's more of a medical issue. Although you're giving some good tips, so I really appreciate it. Let's talk about shoes. So do you recommend court shoes or sneakers? What kind of shoes would you recommend or that you wear when you play pickleball? How about that?
Well, I'm going to go to Vince on this, but I think court shoes really are. Vince is already unmuted. He's ready to go. Court shoes are important because of the lateral stability that it gives. It's built very, running shoes are designed to keep you moving forward. And I won't get into running shoes today, but they are really designed to move you forward. A court shoe is going to help you stop quickly and that side to side movement. So a court shoe really is important.
Yeah, a lot of the court shoes are built to wrap around your foot and protect that foot when you're doing that side to side stopping and starting, which you do a lot in pickleball. So it's very important that you wear court shoes when you play pickleball because, as she said, running shoes are meant to help you go forward and forward, basically. And they don't have that lateral support. So they're built for something completely different. Regular sneakers, walking sneakers don't have the traction. So you need the traction in order to be able to have that quick stop, when you're playing pickleball. Otherwise, you could slip and fall. So it's very important to get a good pair of court shoes when you play pickleball.
And those are good ideas, you guys. You need something sturdy. Don't play pickleball in flip flops. It's not gonna work.
Don't do anything in flip flops.
You got to have something a tad more sturdy than that one. Yeah, thank you, Vince, for adding that one. Yeah, what about eyeglasses? Some people need to either wear contacts or eyeglasses. I mean, what would you suggest? Maybe some protective something, or what do you suggest with eyewear? How about that?
Sure. And a couple people said, they've gotten hit in the face, that they do suggest eye protection. That makes a ton of sense. What I would say, how many of you wear progressive lenses?
Ah,
I do. Have you noticed when you go downstairs that that's not great when you look through the bottom? I take my
yeah.
glasses off. So one of the things that's important is if you're wearing progressive lenses, that is not going to be great when you're playing. And so when you're playing sports, and again, talk to your doctor. I've talked to my doctor. You want usually a distance lens, like a single vision distance lens, when you're engaging in athletic activities. A multifocal lens is a falls risk. Whether you're playing
Mm.
pickleball or not, a multifocal lens is a fall risk. Because when we look at the bottom, it magnifies for our reading, but that creates a visual disturbance when we're looking further. And so a monofocal distance is probably going to be best. Again, talk to your doctor. And
Hmm.
then if you're getting hit, you might want a sport lens, something that isn't going to crack, that isn't going to cause you injury, where the glass isn't going to break. So a sport lens, if you're getting serious, a protective monofocal sport lens, I need to go order some of these for me, is really helpful. But yes, you want to wear the right prescription for the sport, which is not going to be your transitions and not going to be your bifocals. And you want a safety lens so that if you get hit, it's going to absorb it. So you don't want the metal nose holder. You want something probably
Yeah.
that's plastic, the rubber for the nose grip. Vince has come off mute and has something to say.
Yeah, like she said, lenses should be impact resistant. So, lenses can be hard
Yeah.
plastic, right? And clear, or you can get ones that, change tint in the sun. So if you're out in the sun, they darken automatically. But it's really important to have protection for the sides of your eyes as well, because your partner can hit a ball that hits, the side of your face, and that can still hit your eye. So you want to protect those eyes, and it's very important to wear protective lenses when you're playing pickleball because that ball is really hard. And if somebody's hitting it hard at you and you get hit in the eye, you can have some serious eye damage.
And Maureen put Gearbox in, which I will be looking at after the presentation.
One of the members mentioned something about they use a gearbox for their eye protection. Have you guys have heard of that? A gearbox?
I have. There's a few online companies. If you have your prescription, you can order online. There's always a little bit of a risk of what you're going to get, but it can be quite expensive to go,
Oh, yeah.
depending on where you're going. So, Gearbox is one option. You can look online, check with your optometrist as well. But those impact glasses, like Vince showed you, they're soft, they're going to protect your face, but also be and you've got a couple recommendations. Um,
Yeah, and there's a couple of others.
lots of
I also thank you, Vince. Thank you. Yeah, everybody I see now, people are using all kinds of different glasses, which is great. Vince, I'm glad that you put those links on that she mentioned about the exercises and things, so members can be able to go back and see and review some of those, because those are some great tips that you put on there. So, Vince, tell me some of your experiences that you've had that you'd like to share during your pickleball experience.
Oh, well, I love pickleball as we've mentioned. It's a lot of fun because you meet different people. There are a lot of mixers now that you can play with where you rotate partners every game. So you get to meet a lot of people and play with different levels of players. Generally, you're kind of grouped into a level. They score you at a certain level, like a 1.5 as a beginner, all the way up to and into advanced levels like 3.0s and 4.0s. So, it is important. I actually did get injured playing pickleball. My partner hit a ball that hit me in the ear, and my ear was ringing for like the next week or so. Pickleball can be dangerous, but any sport can be dangerous. And you just have to be very careful. One of the things I mentioned to Tamer is that communication with your partner is very important when you play pickleball because you have to be able to tell them, hey, I'm going after this
Yeah.
ball, or you get it, because otherwise you're going to have collisions, especially if you're changing partners in a mixer. You can collide with each other, or you can both be swinging for the same ball at the
Yeah.
same time, and you hit your hand or your paddle. And so you want to avoid those collisions by being very communicative with your partner. So those are
Thank
an
you.
important tip.
And what about I see your paddle, your pickleball paddle. What kind of pickleball paddle do you have there? I know you
I
keep
have an
showing it. I'm
enhanced
kind
paddle.
of interested. It looks kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the more advanced pedals are fiberglass, and so they have a little more grip on the surface, so that when you're doing top spins or other kinds of spins, then the ball stays on your paddle just a tiny bit longer and is able to get that little spin. But beginner paddles, obviously, you can buy from Amazon. That's how we started. Um, but yeah. And there's a lot on Amazon, and definitely do your research online, Googling, what to buy. There's many, many, many resources on pickleball.
Yeah, your pal look kind of cool. That's why I asked that question. Okay, back to you. Back to you, Vince and Tamara. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Okay, so closing out. Thank you so much, Dr. Semergen. We really appreciate your time today. For those of you who want to rewatch this presentation, we are going to be sharing the link to the AARP California YouTube channel where the video will be posted. Um, and join us next month on Tea and Coffee Tuesday on July 8th at 9 a.m. Pacific time for Managing Anxiety So You Can Sleep. That's Dr. Erin Cassidy Eagle from Stanford University Medical Center is coming back to discuss how you can manage anxiety so you can sleep. And later in the month, on July 24th at 9 a.m., Piggy Bank Essentials is delighted to bring Bahar Geslin back to talk about the power of attorney documents, what they are, their limitations, and what you should consider as you set them up. And thank you again to Dr. Semergen for being our speaker, and thank you to our Tea and Coffee Tuesday volunteers, Connie, Sarita, Haresh, and Joyce, as well as the AARP staff. And of course, thank you all for joining us today. We hope you've learned something about playing pickleball safely. My name again is Vince King. I'm an AARP volunteer as well. And this concludes today's program. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day, and you can leave the meeting. If you stay in the meeting, we'll put you back in the waiting room. So if you wonder why you're going in the waiting room, that's what we're doing. But thank you again for joining us.